And hard and you aiming for the seven figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors. All my entrepreneurs, time for you to check this. Yoann, Dorat, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe. REI Tribe. Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to this new episode of the REI Tribe podcast. Today, we have a very, very special guest on the podcast, Nick Perry. So Nick is probably one of the most successful real estate investor and wholesaler that we had on this podcast so far. So Nick, I'm glad to have you here, man. Welcome.
They've been honored and grateful to be here. Been waiting a long time to meet you and just spend some time and introduce myself and see how much value I can provide in a short amount of time.
Absolutely. That's the main goal of this podcast. We have people at different stage of this, of their wholesaling journey. So the goal is really to provide a maximum of value. And I know you've been in this industry for a while, so I'm sure you're going to have some very valuable, actionable tips for the audience. But before we get started, can you tell me a bit more about, your journey? Or did you get started in real estate and wholesaling?
Yeah. I'm a 10th grade dropout. Growing up, I was always the troublemaker in school, always getting kicked out, skipping school, getting in fights. 10th grade, I got a promotion. I was working part-time after school at a cell phone store, and I was doing well at my job, failing at school. And I got a promotion to store manager at 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so they thought I was 18, but I was only 15. So they said, hey, you're going to be the new store manager. You're doing amazing. It comes with this big hourly wage, which is 18 an hour, and a little bit of commission. And I had to make the decision between, should I go to work full time or should I get my high school diploma? And that was the end of my schooling right there. So I actually figured out how to do my high school diploma online, but I went and, put myself to work. I've been working ever since. I worked at the cell phone store until I was about 18, and then I became a personal trainer. And I excelled in personal training. I, built up my book of clients pretty quickly. And, I was working, from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., basically the top as you can get as a personal trainer. And I realized, I'm working 60 hours plus a week and I'm only making 75 grand a year. And I started looking at all my clients who I'm training, and I lived in a suburb of Washington, D.C., outside of in Northern Virginia, pretty affluent area. And all my clients, were millionaires telling me about their trips to the Maldives, and they lived in these huge houses and they were pulling up in Rolls Royces. I'm like, man, I got something wrong. What do these guys do? And the common denominator was none of them had a 9-to-5 job. None of them, seemed like they were any smarter than me. I felt like, we were talking on the same level when I was training them. I was like, I must have the wrong roadmap. And what I started realizing was all these wealthy clients that I had were all business owners. They owned, a software company. They were in real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Either way, they were business owners. So I realized I needed to, figure out what business I was going to learn. And I'm not a techie guy. I've always kind of been more on the sales side of things. And a lot of the guys were in real estate. And so I started, being inquisitive with my clients. And that was kind of where I got the entrepreneurial bug from, was seeing all my wealthy clients and realizing I needed to make that shift from trading time for money to actually building a business and leveraging my skill sets and my time.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, because at some point, like your earning capacity gets stuck, like you hit a ceiling because you're really just trading time for money. So you realize that in order to reach this level of lifestyle that your client had and that you were aiming to get, you needed to kind of like switch something in your life. But at that point, so you didn't knew exactly what industry was the right one for you. You were looking at real estate, software. You knew that it wasn't really your thing because of like the tech aspect of it. Were you already, did you already made up your mind on real estate, or was it like, oh no, it has to be something revolving around sales in general?
Well, I had a hunch that it needed to be something in real estate, but I had no idea how to get started. I thought I needed to get my license and I needed to go the traditional agent route and build up, capital before I could become an investor. And, I was kind of pushed out of Northern Virginia. I got to the end of my lease I was living with some roommates and they went off and, moved in with their girlfriends, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay in Northern Virginia and try to, keep making my life here, or should I move somewhere else? And I always wanted to get out of my hometown. So I took the little bit of money I had $5,000 saved up. That was like my life savings. And I moved to Austin, Texas, kind of on a whim. I visited there for a weekend, had a great time, but I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any, connections, no jobs lined up. I just moved down there and it was a fresh start for me. And I was forced to say, okay, this is a new chapter. What am I going to do? So while I was down there, applying for jobs, I was also on YouTube at the same time, learning about real estate. And I came across real estate wholesaling, came across Sean Terry videos and some of the early content creators on YouTube.
He was probably the only guy back then, right? There was not that much content on real estate. I feel like these days, you go on YouTube, you have a ton of information. You have basically like a business you have the blueprint out there. You need to dig for the information. There is a lot of information that is not really applicable, but you have a lot of information if you really want to get into it. But back in the day, I remember wholesaling. I think the first guy that I heard wholesaling from was Sean Terry. There was a few guys. There was another guy, Chris Rood, I think, that was like kind of like talking a little bit about that. I remember he was a guy on Grant Cardone podcast talking about wholesaling at the beginning, but it was very, very limited information.
Yeah. So I took the limited information I had and then just latched onto it. Back then they told you go down to the courthouse, pull county records, handwrite letters, put out bandit signs. So while I was looking for a job and running out of money, I was doing that at my kitchen table, till 2:00 in the morning, every morning, sending out postage and mail and stuffing envelopes, putting up bandit signs. And, I started generating a little bit of traffic and going on appointments, but I had to get a job because I was running out of money. I had this dream of being an entrepreneur, being successful, not having to answer to a boss. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to have to get a job and I'm going to have to go answer to a boss for a little while so I can keep this dream alive and become a full-time real estate investor. So I ended up getting a job at Indeed.com, which is, where you guys are probably familiar. You go on there and look for jobs, but they're a massive sales organization. So they sell to big companies, and I was selling pay-per-click advertising to large companies.
They have a pretty impressive system because I used Indeed, of course, in a few years ago, several times, and I'm probably somewhere in their CRM, and every now and then, like probably like 4 or 5 times a year, I receive some phone call from their rep. I'm still in their emailing loop. Like they have a pretty impressive sales organization at Indeed.
Absolutely. It's a great inside sales organization. And that's where I developed a lot of my skills, and I still have a lot of their SOPs inside of my wholesaling business now. So I went from, basically I was about to miss rent that month in Austin, a new person down there. I was about to have to, go, try to hustle up money, but I ended up getting this job at Indeed, and I went from negative $800 in my account to making, like $200,000 a year. So I went in there with the mindset that I'm going to go in here, do whatever I have to do, listen to whatever they tell me to do, go in and crush it so I can put this money into my real estate company and get out of the 9-to-5 rat race as soon as humanly possible. So that was my mentality going in, and I went rookie of the year, top gun. I was a top performer there, and that allowed me to invest in marketing, invest in masterminds while I had that 9-to-5, and it accelerated my entrepreneurial journey.
So would you say that the sales skills is something that you already had in you, or is it something that you already acquired at Indeed through their own training program and all of that? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people start to do like in-person negotiation, and then they transition when we went into, nationwide or statewide wholesaling into like fund sales. But for you, you've been doing fund sales since the beginning, because I guess at Indeed, you were talking to guys like all across the US, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, that was my job. It was basically, 60 calls a day, 120 minutes, high quotas, high pressure, Wolf of Wall Street, type sales. And that was the environment that really molded me.
Yeah.
And it served me very well, going into my own business.
Okay. So it's really at Indeed that you learn, how to narrow the skills. You're already at sales in you, but it's really Indeed that helped you perfect your skills, right?
I would say because, the business we run now, it's inside sales.
Yeah.
I tell everybody we're not in the real estate business. We're in this is an inside sales job. That's all it is.
It's marketing and sales. Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. Just going back to the wholesaling, your beginning in wholesaling, you told me like you moved, to Dallas, Texas, and then right out of the gate, you went on YouTube and you started to figure out things about wholesaling. Did you ever cross your mind to like become a real estate agent or like start fix and flip? Because usually like you discover wholesaling late. Like I realized that most people try the traditional route of real estate and then they figure out it's not working and they end up discovering wholesaling. So have you been straight to wholesaling or did you try anything else before that?
No, I went straight into wholesaling because, the whole thing about wholesaling is you don't need any money and you don't need any credit. Well, I was like, well, I qualify for that job. So I went straight into wholesaling and just put my blinders on. And I didn't do anything else for 6 years. I didn't get into any other businesses. I didn't fix and flip. I didn't do anything. I just kept my blinders on. And that's why I became, very good at what I did.
Because you were narrow focus on one thing.
Narrow focus for a long, long period of time.
All right. Sounds good. So, you had this job at Indeed. You were making a nice income, and you were still wholesaling on the side, right? You were taking part of this income to reinvest in marketing to wholesale.
Bro, I wasn't doing it on the side. I had 2 full-time jobs. That's what people don't realize is like when you're starting a business and getting it off the ground, you're going to work all the time. You're going to work at your normal job. You're going to have to keep your personal life together and you're going to have another full-time job after hours and on the weekends. And that's just the way it goes. So, I'd work 8:30 to 5:30 at Indeed, come home, eat real fast, and then I'd be right back on the laptop and in the phone talking to sellers until, and doing all the other things in the business until midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then every Saturday, every Sunday, full days, all real estate. So those first couple of years, there was no, messing around, no vacations. It was pretty much just, grind.
Dude, that's a huge golden advice that you have here, because I think most people get started and don't take enough action. They're just starting to call a few people and like, oh, I call 100 people. I didn't get any deals. Well, guess what? Try to call 1,000 people and do that consistently for 3 or 6 months. And then you're going to get a deal. So
let me tell you something. It took me 104 appointments before I got my first deal. And these are when you had to drive to people's houses. And I was driving all over the state of Texas in a beat up Mazda 3 with no air conditioning, literally going and sitting at people's kitchen counters, trying to get them to sell me their house for 50 cents on the dollar, getting chased out of the, home. One time I got chased out with a shotgun. And it was demoralizing. Literally, can you imagine driving to, an hour, 2 hours, 104 times to people's houses and getting told, no, door slammed on your face, hot Texas summer. I just had back surgery. I had a big open hole in my back and I'm sweating in Texas heat, no AC. And, those are the times that test you and, really will say, how bad do you want this, to happen?
Absolutely. And I guess after this first deal, like the first deal is always hard to get. And I hear a lot of, different things from people who are like, oh, I got my first deal very fast, but then it took months to get the second one. But usually when you take several months to get your first deal and you put those habits of, like hustling up every day and being very consistent in your efforts, usually you create some kind of momentum. And I realized that after the first deal, it might take a year to get the first one, but after the first one, the second one arrived probably a few weeks or a few months later. So how about your second deal? Like, how long did it took between the first deal and the second one?
That's exactly how it played out. So my first deal took me 11 months and I struck out 104 times before I got that first deal. I made $13,000 on my first deal. Mm-hmm. And because I had that job at Indeed, I was able to take all of that money and I put it right back into marketing, every penny of it. And
what kind of marketing were you doing back then? Was it still mailers and Bennett sign?
Back then it was that, back in 2014, I think I used all that money and I put it on mail. So I sent out mailers in San Antonio and literally as soon as that mail hit, I think it was like the fourth or fifth direct mail phone call. I got a deal and then a couple more calls after that. I got a deal. So on that mailing campaign, I think I got 3 deals from it on $13,000. And then, those 3 deals made me like, 48,000 between those 3 deals. But and all those came back to back to back after 11 months of, pain. So then I started getting some momentum and really, started accelerating. I started actually going to, masterminds. I invested heavily in my education. I tell everybody I'm a byproduct of having good mentors. So, I went and did all of Sean Terry's masterminds. I did the boardrooms. And that was a big help for me, getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is really like 2 phases to any business. I think at the beginning, you really have to have a strong vision and a strong commitment. And that's why you lasted during all those months without getting any deals, with just getting a rejection. And that's where most people bail, because most people are not going to have what it takes to last this long. But for the one who did, as soon as you get this first deal, it's kind of a proof of concept. And I think it kind of like switched something in your head, because now you know that it's real, it's here, you hold this first check. And so that's why I guess the momentum gets created at this point, because you already created those habits and now it's just like pushing it forward. So
for sure. Yeah. I mean, there was no option for me. I didn't see any other way out. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm going to be stuck in 9 to 5 corporate hell if I don't figure this out. So I was literally like 50 Cent, like get rich or die trying.
Yeah.
There was no other option. Like I was not going to fail. Like I was literally going to get rich or die trying on this.
So how did you make this transition from this corporate job to wholesaling? Because I guess when you're making $200K a year, it's pretty hard to take the leap of faith to be like, oh, let's just fully jump into wholesaling, right?
Well, yeah, I never wanted golden handcuffs. I've always been a rebel my entire life. So like I'm a grown man. So to have another grown man tell me when I have to show up, when I can take lunch, how long I can take it. Like, I just don't operate that way. The only person that I answer to is God. So for me, I was not going to be able to stay in there even if they paid me $1 million. Like, it's just I was on the verge of getting fired every single day, but I made too many sales for them to fire me. But my, transition, the way that I did it was very methodical, because I realized, and I had, mentors help me realize, like, here's how you're going to make your transition. Figure out, this is very important. You guys need to write this down. If you're in a 9 to 5 right now, here's how you're going to transition out. Figure out how much it costs you, your personal expenses per month, and then how much are you spending in your business per month. You need at least 3 to 6 months of operational expenses for your business, and same thing for your personal. So if you're spending $10K a month on your business and $10K a month on your personal, you should at least have $30K for business and $30K for personal. So you need to have at least $60K, right? Better, if you're safer, have 6 months, have $60K for your business, $60K for your personal. Right now you have 120K.
That's a very good advice. So is it what you did when you transitioned out of Indeed? Like you stack up some cash aside to have like 3 months of expenses covered on both the personal side and the business side, and then what? You just quit your job and went fully into wholesaling?
No, I got to that. mark where I had, liquidity in my account. And then I waited for one more bonus check. So I basically was like, all right, I'm going to stick around for one more quarter because I was getting a fat bonus check at Indeed. And I had a bunch of real estate deals in the pipe. So that gave me the time. Like I was like, but I put a hard date on it. Like it was a big deal to me. I was like, April 15th is bonus day. And that's the day. As soon as I come in that day, like and the checks in my account, I'm literally going up to my manager, thanking him for everything. And as soon as you quit at Indeed, they escort you to the door. There's no like 2 weeks notice there.
All right.
So yeah, that's how it is in sales. So I went and, literally had I was tallying the days like I was in, federal prison, I think I had 110 days to start and I went all the way down to 0. And on day 0, I went and, I shook my hand of my manager and, said goodbye to all my teammates. And I still keep in contact. I left on very good terms at Indeed. And, I actually, still stay in contact with a lot of those people. And my CEO of my company, who's been with me for 8 years, was my intern at Indeed. So, yeah. Yep.
All right. That's pretty good. So tell me what happened once you leave Indeed and now you end up like being like 100% focused on this real estate business. That's the only thing that you have left. So, what change did you make to scale this business?
There was no downtime, right? So I quit the job. I literally walk outside and it's a Friday morning and I went straight to work. I think I called my mom on the way back, let her know I quit, and my ass was back in my apartment on the laptop calling sellers because now I had a new sense of fire underneath me. There was no safety net of a corporate 9-to-5 job.
What did your mom say? What was she like? What the hell? Why did you do that? Or was she like supportive of you quitting your job and
No, stuff? I mean, she was very supportive. She was, my mom, she wanted me, her best hopes for me was to be a plumber growing up. And I was like, Mom, I'm not going to be a plumber. Absolutely not. So my mom was very proud of me and she, saw the progression. I'm very close with all my family, but I talked to my mom every couple of days. So she knew I was quitting through this whole time. And when I finally did it, she was like, congratulations. It's amazing. And
that was an accomplishment.
Yeah, it was a big accomplishment. So I got right to work and at that point, I was a one-man show with a VA. And, I had a VA and, my phone and my laptop and that was it. And
what did you as a VA do, at the time? Like, was it like back office stuff, like putting the list and stuff like that?
So because I worked at Indeed, I had a VA basically answering the phones while I was, at my 9-to-5 and doing lead management, setting appointments for me for the evenings and the weekends. And I had her, kind of a quasi acquisition lead manager. She was able to I trained her pretty well. So she was able to take over a lot of the lead management and acquisitions in the beginning.
So she was basically pre-qualifying the lead, like making sure they weren't asking twice the retail value, kind of getting information about the condition of the house, their motivation, this kind of stuff.
Correct. And, that's how I operated for a few months. And then I had a, buddy that came in and he started doing acquisitions as well. He started helping. And then, we were off to the races. We were going to masterminds. We were cranking marketing. At this point, we were doing 3 to 5 deals a month. Kind of got stuck at that point for a couple years. And this is 2016 is when I'm telling you guys the story when I left my corporate job. My buddy, he wasn't making enough money because our company was struggling. We're having the ebbs and flows that you guys probably have is like, you've got deals closing, but everything's getting delayed and nobody's getting paid. And yeah, you've got $80K getting ready to come in, but everything just keeps happening. Title companies screwed up. Buyers are backing out. Sellers, you guys know how it goes. So we're having all these growing pains and he went off to the oil field because he was already out there. He's doing phenomenal. Still a great friend of mine, but I was back to being on my own with my VA and my intern from Indeed that was, I never thought I'd talk to him again, calls me and he's like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Will you come? Is there any way I can work with you? I'm like, bro, you're making $130,000 a year at Indeed right now with 401k benefits. the full nine. What do you want to come work for me? He's like, listen, I saw what you were doing in real estate. I'm more passionate about growing a business and doing real estate than I am, being a corporate slave. And I was like, well, I can only pay you $500 a week to come help me like cold call and stuff. He's like, let's do it. So he started from the very, very bottom, cold calling, taking ringless voicemail calls to his cell phone, just terrible, terrible jobs, and worked his way up. And he's been with me for 8 years. He's the CEO of my company now. He's retired. His name's Brandon. He retired his mother. He's got multiple properties. He's, doing amazing things. So that's basically, the early days and kind of how my company formed.
That's an amazing story. And I can already see, like, I've been doing that for a while, like cold calling and everything. And it's really something like, I think it's probably the first thing that I would subcontract into a wholesale business, because it's hard, man. Like cutting every day and getting rejected and getting people to scream at you. It's really the bottom of the wholesaling industry. So, but I think it's still something everybody has to go through, because it kind of like forge your mindset for what's next. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing that it got started through that. Now, you're saying that you were capped at like 3 to 5 deals per month. Do you feel it's kind of like where most people get stuck in wholesaling, like getting to pass this 5 deals a month cap?
Yeah. And I call that wholesaling purgatory, because basically you're generating income, but you're not generating enough income to really like live a nice life. Like you got money coming in, money going out. Yeah. And you're kind of just scraping by, right?
Yeah. One deal that goes south can kind of like screw up your whole plans. And I think it's what you were saying with your buddy that went to the oil business. It's like, you don't quite make enough money to like have a full-time acquisition guy that really focus on it, because I feel like if you pay him like 10% of the spread or something, he's not going to make such a great living compared to what he could do with the same sales skill set in another industry. So it's kind of like the difficult cap that you need to break through. So I think what everybody is thinking of right now in the audience, they're probably like, okay, I'm currently at this cap. I'm currently at this 3 to 5 deals per month. How do I pass this cap? Like what's the way to, grow to 6, 7, 8, and then over 10 deals a month?
Yeah. So, and I wish I had somebody tell me this when I was going through it, because I got stuck at that point for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And, now we're very blessed. We do 30, 40 deals every single month and we're growing. But it came down to really 3 things. Our business is very simple, but there's a lot of nuances involved in it. So marketing is number 1. Being able to market effectively is literally the foundation of your entire business. Being able to generate leads at a predictable cost per lead, and being able to convert those leads at a predictable cost per contract, cost per closed, and average deal size. Those are the biggest things. So you got marketing, acquisitions, and dispositions. Those are the only 3 departments. So if your business is not scaling, there's something going on within those 3 departments, or how you're managing as a leader. And it's usually a combination between all 3. But where I see most entrepreneurs struggle right now, and it's always been this way, is marketing, right? If you're stuck there, like your marketing really isn't where it needs to be. Your cost per lead is fluctuating like crazy. You're not generating consistent quality lead flow for yourself and your team. And that's really it. And then if that's not the issue, then it's acquisitions, right? You're not effectively talking to these homeowners. You're not utilizing the right strategies. You're not locking up the deals properly. Or dispo, dispo is usually the 3rd hurdle. You can't move these deals. You don't know the right strategies to move them, but it's all, very easy. Like in hindsight, looking back, like none of this stuff is rocket science. I could teach wholesaling to anybody you bring me off the street. If they just follow what, we tell them to do, they'll probably be a millionaire.
And that's probably the tricky part, is that I see a lot of people every day, getting into coaching program and having successful people like you showing them the exact blueprint, but people like don't really follow the blueprint. They try to do their own version of it. And it's usually when it messed up, because once you figure it out, like, why do you want to reinvent the wheel? If it's been successful for you, it's going to be successful for someone else, but they need to follow your step. And that's usually the tricky part. I totally connect with what you say about like predictability on the lead, having a consistent flow of quality lead, and a consistent cost per lead. And I think that's one of the things too. You know, every day I talk to a lot of people through my media agency who wants to transition to PPC and inbound leads. And we goes back to your first story when you were a trainer, you know, trading time for money. It's really what I see every day. I have people I told to were like, okay, I'm a solo entrepreneur, or I have one VA working with me. Okay, what do you spend your time on every day? Because at this stage of your business, you should spend 90% of your time talking to homeowners. You shouldn't do anything else. And the problem is they're telling me, yeah, but I actually spend 70% of my time between doing the transaction coordination of the few deals that I have, and pulling the list, skip tracing the list, putting it in the dialer, rotating my phone number, all this kind of thing, which doesn't really move the needle. And then you need to still like talk to 80 different leads in order to find one qualified seller. So I think predictability is a good thing. I don't know what's your opinion on that, but in my opinion, for to grow a wholesale business past 10 deals a month, I think inbound marketing is the only way to really do that.
Dude, I made my career on inbound marketing. So I've been doing pay-per-click advertising since I started, you know, basically right after I told you I sent out that direct mail. I, you know, have been in PPC ever since. So, yeah, I spend millions of dollars on PPC, and we do nationwide. So I was one of the first people to ever do nationwide pay-per-click advertising. Everybody told me I was crazy. And yeah, we figured it out.
Did you do that because you were lowering your cost per deal because you were blanketing in a larger area?
Correct. So what I realized was, you know, if I'm targeting like the metropolitan areas in Texas, my cost per lead is, you know, $150, $250, $300. But I was just messing around one day and I did a campaign and I just selected the United States as my target. And this was back in 2015. And I started getting leads on Google for like $1.80. And I was like, holy shit. So I didn't know what to do with them. I kind of just paused that campaign and I started getting really low on leads in my target markets. I was just doing the Texas cities, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin. And, I was running out of leads. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a shot on some of these leads outside of Texas. And I quickly got a contract from a lead that came in from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Never been there, never seen the house, didn't know a thing about the city. Anyways, I locked it up, scrambled to find a buyer, found a buyer, made, you know, $9K or whatever. And that was proof of concept. And then I just started doing it over and over and over and over. And I've done thousands upon thousands of, these transactions since that point.
So can you give us like a few numbers for people to understand this shift from being very local to in your Texas market in just a few cities to growing nationwide? Like how many deals were you doing in Texas before you made this switch to nationwide?
Like I said, I was doing that 3 to 5 deals a month.
3 to 5.
Correct.
So and nationwide is really what helped you break from this setting and reach 7-figure, right?
Correct. It immediately gave me some alleviation on my cost per lead, my cost per closed deal. And then there was a lot of hurdles and challenges to figuring out nationwide. I was the pioneer of figuring this out. There was no Sean Terry of nationwide. You know, I taught Sean Terry how to do nationwide. Yeah. He came to me years later. I showed him, but I was the guy that kind of had to, you know, pioneer a lot of the systems and processes and SOPs. So,
like figuring out the boots on the ground, how to dispose, this kind of thing. Because I think that's one of the things that most people might be wondering. Okay, I do a nationwide campaign. I'm going to get probably some leads that are in very like small rural area where there's not that many cash buyers? How do you overcome these things? Like, do you just disregard completely those leads, or do you have any strategies like, I don't know, innovation or anything like that to monetize?
Yeah. So if it's in a smaller city where there's not a lot of investors, we'll look at it. So first thing I'll do, say I get a deal in or a lead in a place. It's a population of 5,000 people. I'll look at the sales activity there. If a lot of the properties are going pending, I know that there's action there. So if there's 100 properties for sale and 75 of them are pending, I know, wow, there's a lot of activity going on in this market. So that allows me to know that there is demand. I can do one of two things. I know I'm not going to be able to put this under contract and probably get it to a cash buyer. So what are my other strategies? If I can get it on the MLS, it's going to get sold. So how am I going to get it on the MLS? I can either do a novation, right? I can put it under contract and just do a flat fee listing on it, or I can wholesale it. So if either of those are on the table, I'm pushing towards that.
Okay. Do you think that's something that sometimes like people kind of get stuck on this cash offer kind of model? Like they don't really look at several different exit strategies. I feel like people for some reason get stuck on one thing when at the end of the day, it's just an exit strategy. Like the skill set, the base of this business is getting in front of motivated seller and get a deal. Once you have it, you can hold it as rental. You can do a fix and flip. You can do innovation. You can do cash deal, wholesale. Like there's a world of possibilities. Do you experience the same thing?
Yeah. And I think if people just get overwhelmed, with the different exit strategies, and it becomes difficult to see past what they know is tried and true, which is just making a cash offer. But you're going to lose so much money and leave so much on the table if you don't master a couple extra simple exit strategies. Like, I'm not asking you to, throw out everything that you're doing. Cash offer is always going to be a foundation. But in 2023, you need to know how to do novations. You need to know how to be able to wholesale properties, and you need to know how to do basic creative financing, being able to take over somebody's mortgage payment and turn it into a rental, or be able to take over a payment and put it on the MLS for full retail. Simple stuff like that. There's a ton of great videos on YouTube for free, or, a lot of great coaching programs, if you're looking for something more structured.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, one of the things that I noticed too, like, I'm a big believer in PPC. That's why I started an agency in this niche. But one of the things that I've seen is sometimes the closer in the other side of the fund doesn't have the skills to take care of those homeowners right away. And I think that's where having the right training and joining the right coaching program to kind of sharpen your skills can help, because it even happened to me back in the day in my wholesaling business. Sometimes I kind of like increased my PPC too fast, and I had some new closers on my flow that just weren't sharp enough to take care of those leads. And when you have a cost per lead that is pretty high, the cost of lost opportunity if you don't have the right guy on the other side of the phone is terrible. Yeah. So that's one of the things. Like, I'm just wondering, to do 30 to 40 deals a month, what does your internal structure looks like? Like, do you go through like a lead manager that pre-qualify and do live transfer? Do you have, how does that work for a company of this scale?
Yeah. I mean, I've got 9 acquisitions currently. We just hired another one, so we're about to be at 10. Guys starting next week. We have 4 dispo, and we've got 3 transaction coordinators. Then I have a CEO and an executive assistant, and myself. I'm just the business owner. I'm kind of removed from the day to day. I'm more in the owner's box. But if you come to my office, you would be very impressed with the skill set of my people. Like, it's professional athletics in there. Like, we are very good. I come from Indeed, which is a high level inside sales company. So we have very high standards for our acquisitions. Like you said, the lost opportunity cost of an acquisition's missing a deal can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars over a year. So we don't play games. Like when we bring in acquisitions on, if you don't close a deal within the first 14 days, you're fired. If you misquoted 2 months in a row, you're fired. We tell them, straight up, like, hey, this is like getting drafted to, the NFL. Either you're drafted, but you have not made the team yet. You've got to earn your stripes here. So, our guys all make 6 figures plus. So it's really good culture, really good
So
atmosphere.
in order to sustain something like that on acquisition, I mean, obviously you need to have a very close eye on your KPI, but then you must be consistently hiring and firing, right? You always have some new people coming in and getting trained.
No, I mean, our core group of guys have all been with us for years,
Oh,
right?
really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we don't have turnover. We fire.
You must have a very strong company culture, because from what I've observed across a lot of different companies in wholesaling, usually sharp acquisition guy don't stay over like 2 years. Usually, like I've seen kind of like a rotating thing where they come in, they get trained, they start to perform, then they leave and they start their own wholesaling company. I haven't seen like a lot of companies being able to really retain their talents for such a long time.
Well, you got to give them a career path, one. So they need to be able to say, why am I going to stay with this company for a long period of time? So whatever their personal goals are, we map to that. So that's a big thing of like our leadership and our management for how we retain top talent is, these top talent, they want stuff for their lives. They have goals, right? They want to, own rental properties. They want passive income. They want all the benefits that come with, real estate. They don't necessarily want all the risk of starting a business. They want the money and they want the passive income. So how do you get them that? Right? We like a lot of our deals, our employees will buy for rentals, and we're happy to sell them to them. So, we provide that as a, means of building their retirement, keeping them incentivized. They're getting a look at the most discounted, best off-market property in the nation. We also, pay extremely well. Like I said, all of our acquisitions, most of our people in our office are making 6 figures. And people are moving up. We've got directors in our acquisition department. We've got directors in our disposition department. They see the vision. Our team is extremely, close knit. We do a lot of, stuff after hours, happy hours, team outings. We got a company boat club membership. We take everybody out on the lake like every other weekend. We just got back from Nashville. We took our lead dispo and rented a big Airbnb in Nashville and partied in Nashville for a weekend. So we do stuff like that to keep the culture really strong. And, it's amazing, what that does for retention as well.
Because I understand that this culture is so important and that you have your people in office. Let me ask you this, we have this trend that I think came with this whole nationwide wholesaling and virtual wholesaling. Most people now kind of outsource or at least hire team members overseas and run those kind of like fully virtual company. Do you think it's sustainable today? Do you think you can run a wholesale operation completely virtually, or do you still need to have at least your acquisition people in office?
Do I think that you can? Yes, I believe that you can do it. Would I do it? No. I want to have an office where we're all together, we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, where I can control the culture, where I'm able to know when people are showing up, know when they're going home, know if they're having a good day or bad day, be able to quickly communicate and solve problems, not have to sit there and try to Slack or hop on a Zoom call. That's extremely inefficient. When you're running a company, you're trying to do trainings, trying to, build people. It just makes it harder. Yeah. So I pay through the nose for my office, right? Like our office is in Austin, Texas, which is the highest office rent in the nation. Yeah. And I pay gladly for my office and I keep everything there. I live in Mexico, but I still, build an office culture because I'm a firm believer that is much more effective than a remote situation, especially for inside sales.
Yeah, of course. And because now you have a CEO in place in your company and everything is pretty much automated.
Hey,
and you're in this owner seat, you don't need to actually be there physically. So you can live overseas in Mexico and the business.
Have you ever been
still runs.
dude, have you ever been in a sales pit where there's 9, 10 people all locking up deals, the pit's buzzing, you got music blasting. Like, it's a vibe.
It's a vibe, yeah.
Yeah, you can't get that working remote. Like, that's just.
So do you still have some back office staff overseas, or everybody?
No, I don't have. I'm the only one overseas. So, yeah,
Okay.
no, everybody's in Austin. We don't have VAs or no.
That's interesting. But you still think that it's doable though, but probably not at a high level, right?
If you got the right management style, yeah, I've seen people be somewhat successful with it, but I've never seen anybody like, where I'm at. Like,
yeah, I think it goes back to this company culture thing, because from what I've seen and having a lot of those conversations, people tell me all the time, oh, I'm tired of training acquisition people, closer, and then they just leave and do their own thing, and I need to start all over again. So usually they start to go overseas because of that, thinking like, oh, if I find a closer in Latin America, it's going to be easier. But then come another set of challenges is that they don't connect to the culture the same way. And so your performance and your KPI is going to suffer because of that.
And in hindsight, if I had to do it all over again, I would have moved to Latin America and I would have opened up an office and just started it down there and built my culture in Latin America. There's incredible talent down here. Your overhead will be way less than it is in the U.S., not only in labor, but also in, office rent and operational costs. So,
that's
if you have that luxury.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting because now on my current company, most of my staff, I would say 90% of my staff is in Colombia. So all my people are there, but still on the sales side, everybody is here in the US, because I realize that even though you can understand the culture very well, they don't connect exactly the same way. And I feel like my closers that are here in Miami are going to be much better on the phone than anyone in any country.
I couldn't agree more. That's really the short answer to it, is like, man up and get an office, be a real entrepreneur, get a real office, pay the price. You're going to get better results. You get what you pay for, in my opinion, whether it's in Latin America or whether it's in, the US. Inside sales is meant to be done in an office, in my opinion. That's maybe call me old school, but I've tried it both ways. During COVID, we tried to go remote. It was a shit show. I brought everybody back in house very quickly.
So you were one of those guys that were like, guys, let's go back to the office or everybody is going to get fired.
Pretty much. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you something about like mastermind. And I think you told me at some point in your career, you felt like you needed to join a mastermind. So what did it bring you? Like, what change did it make in your business and in your life, from being the guy that was only like watching Shantery on YouTube and trying to figure out this wholesaling, to then taking the leap of faith to pay probably like 10, 20, 30K to join a mastermind? What did it bring to your business? Because I feel sometimes people are struggling to understand, the real value of a mastermind.
Clarity, certainty, and speed. When you're building a business, basically it's like somebody just dumps out a bunch of parts on a table and says, hey, build this airplane while you're trying to fly it, right? And you try to go watch a bunch of YouTube videos on how to take all these parts and build an airplane while you're trying to fly it. Like, you can probably figure it out on YouTube, but like, you're going to screw some stuff up badly, right? So when you go to these masterminds, you're with people that have already built the plane, and they're sitting there and they're looking at your pieces that you need to assemble. And they're saying, hey man, now you need to use this size screwdriver. Here's the piece that goes here. Here's how you're going to put it on. But make sure you put the engine together first, because if you don't put the engine together first, then it's going to be a nightmare, because most people, they'll try to put it together themselves. Then they'll mess up one thing and have to tear it back down, and they'll try to rebuild it again. Now they got a whole screwed up business. So that's what the power of the, masterminds are, is one, paying to do things properly the first time. Two, the network. Every single one of my friends have come from masterminds. I have a joke. if you didn't pay 10K to be in the room, you're probably not friends with me. So, their highest quality human beings and friends are going to come from paid masterminds. You want to be around like-minded individuals who got big shit going on that are going to push you to be a better individual. That's a huge point of being in a mastermind. And then just the ability to quickly get resources, right? Like I can literally, for our business, I can get pretty much anything done on speed dial. Name one thing. You need a bookkeeper, you need a CRM, you need this, you need that, you need help with a sub 2 deal, like literally name it. Boom. I could call and have it done in 5 minutes from the power of the, mastermind and the power of the network. So I've invested over 7 figures in my education as a high school dropout. And, I'm a huge believer in, continuing to, level up, continuing to learn. That's the way you stay competitive and the way you stay on top.
It's interesting because I'm a high school dropout as well. And that's where you realize, our school system is really fucked, because now looking at all this information that we have and all those coaching programs and all those valuable things that you can learn outside of the school system, I wish we could learn all of that. I wish my kids could learn, sales and entrepreneurship and marketing and all those things at school. I think the school system in America really need to be totally reformed.
Terrible. I'll always homeschool my kids. Yeah. I mean, the public school screws people up. I mean, it screwed me up, So I would definitely,
it goes back. Yeah. It goes back. I don't remember where I watched this documentary. I think on Amazon or Prime or something, but they're explaining that it goes back from the days of, Rockefeller and Carnegie and all those guys. When the school system was created in America, it was created to create employees. It wasn't created to create business owners. And it's still to this point today. It's a machine to produce employees.
Factory
That's
workers.
What it is.
Yeah. You needed more labor. Needed docile labor that will do what they're told, show up when they're supposed to, and not ask questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it kind of killed your creativity on a point. But yeah, going back to the mastermind and everything, we had the same experience, this kind of learning curve. I did it all, the mirrors, the Bennett sign and all of that. The cost of missed opportunity was terrible because it took me years to figure out what would work and what didn't work. I had to build SOP and break the SOPs a few months ago to then rebuild it several times. And for sure, if I hadn't met back then, years ago, a guy like you would have told me, no, Yoann, scratch your mirrors and your Bennett sign, just go straight to PPC. I would have saved probably several years,
Bro,
so
it's what kind of person are you, right? Are you the person that if I go to Disney World, I pay for the fast pass. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy, I get the TSA pre. So you can try to do it on your own but I'm the person, I pay for speed. So I don't care if you're in whatever industry, figure out who the best person is in that industry and pay them, somehow get on their radar, figure out what you need to do to get them to pour value and mentor you. Cause that's the fastest way to go from point A to point Z, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can't be the expert at everything. So it's always, the who, not how. It's always trying to find the right people. I think I read a few days ago, someone was saying that, if you look at billionaires, they really focus on 3 tasks per day. But the 3 tasks that they're the most talented and the most apt to do, the rest of it is completely delegated. And at the end of the day, it's what it is. You should figure out what you're really good at, which, let's be honest, when you're a business owner, your job is really to bring traffic to your company, to bring leads into the system. So doing some branding, doing some marketing, doing this kind of thing. That's what your core focus should be on. And the rest of it, just delegate it. I was talking to someone the other day who was starting a wholesale business, and I was telling him there's no those companies that do transaction coordination, for example. At the beginning, you shouldn't take care of the paperwork. Taking care of the paperwork is such a loss of time. You spend 70% of your time doing that when you should be just talking to homeowners and closing deals. So yeah, I think managing your time is really a skill set that is going to be very, very important.
Big time. I mean, that's where a lot of people get stuck, is doing $10, $20 an hour task when you're trying to be a multimillionaire. It doesn't make sense. So
absolutely.
If you are doing $10 or $20 an hour task, write them down. I want you to diary everything you're doing in a day. And there's probably things on that list that you can delegate to an executive assistant or a VA or whoever, and buy back more time so you can do higher level, higher return activities.
For sure. Let me ask you something, man, because you have a very large and scaled operation. And one of the things that I noticed, and it's something that happened to me back in the day, I had never been at 40 deals a month, but I had a pretty big operation. We're doing like 15, 20 deals a month at the time. And at some point, I realized that when I was doing 20 deals a month, I was actually making less money than when I was doing 10 deals a month, because as I scaled, my operating expenses increase at the same time. And there is kind of this cap that is kind of hard to figure out. I feel like we talk about these 3 to 5 deals to 10 deals. And I feel like this over 10, you need to then really have a close eye on your KPI and being able to really figure out, your profitability, because I've seen guys running a very small, lean operation and having a very nice bottom line. And I've seen people with very impressive company on paper, but then the bottom line was very small. So I think we talked about that one time together. And I think you told me that you scaled back at some point in your career to then refocus. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. The only thing that matters is the bottom line. Like, who cares about top line? Like, what are we all doing this for? Right. So here's the thing. As you're growing a business, you have to grow it profitably and you have to grow it sustainably. Back in 2018, I got to a point, I think I had like 9 people in my organization. Things are cranking along. We're doing 10, 12, deals a month. And I was like, you know what? I got this down. I'm going to go ahead and hire more staff. I'm going to get more people. I'm going to increase leads. And because I do those 2 things, I'm going to make more money. And you know what happened? I took on a bunch of overhead very quickly. My profit margins got crushed. I ended up having to fire pretty much all those people. And I went back to the same point that I was at. So fast forward, what did I learn from that was that you have to grow this company strategically. It's not hire more leads plus more people equals more money. It's you lay one perfect brick at a time. That means you hire in acquisitions, you make sure that they're profitable and that they're working before you go take on more overhead, right? So it's one brick at a time. It's not you go crank marketing by double the leads and just start hiring people because you think that's going to make money. It doesn't. We probably only hire 2 people a quarter, and we're trying to grow faster, but I know that I can grow comfortably at that pace and maintain margins. That's really the key to it, is don't rush your growth. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your KPIs as you grow. So say you bring in new acquisitions to your company. It's going to take a couple months before you see how how that person's going to play out and how your expenses are going to play out. You're taking a hit. Anytime you hire a new employee, you're always kind of going red to go green. It's going to take them a little bit of time to ramp up. They're going to screw up on leads. So you're going to have a little bit of a dip before you start seeing the fruits of that labor. And it usually takes a couple months. So don't get overzealous. Make sure that if you are growing, you're capitalized to grow. You're not it costs money to grow. I think people forget that. You're going to have to increase your salary. You're going to have to increase your marketing. So those are some tips as you're scaling to scale profitably. Always keep an eye on your bottom line, your leads the biggest things to control this business is your leads to contract, your leads to close deal, how much it costs per contract. So dollars per contract, dollars per closed deal, and average deal size. And then what is your bottom line? What's your actual profitability? You should know that every single week, and it's going to go up and down every week, but we've got goals and we know okay, as long as we're hitting these metrics, we're good. So if you're not running your business like that, then you're kind of flying blind and you'll probably crash your crash your business.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So man, I think we already been for a little bit more than 1 hour. Can we, just two things that I want to touch base on. The first thing is, how do you see the market evolving? I think this year we kind of had like, a little bit of change in the market, but because you're not doing only cash offer and you're listing on the MLS and a lot of stuff like that, you might have like a different feedback on that than most people. But have you seen change in your business since, the interest rate like went up like crazy?
Yeah. So, I mean, interest rates going up is stop people from moving, which is worsen the supply issue. There's not any supply out there because somebody that's got a 2 or 3% mortgage is not going to move right now because they're going to have to go to a 7-8% mortgage. It makes absolutely no sense. But people will always want to buy houses. People are always going to need a place to live. Millennials are in the peak of their, purchasing power for first-time home buyers, and there's not anything out there. So the supply issue is creating appreciation in the markets, and we can't catch up to the amount of houses that we need. Like our new construction is continuing to exacerbate and getting, further and further away from where we need to be. So that's going to continue to force appreciation in single family real estate. So I see even, with the forbearances and people not making their mortgage payments, like there's too much demand to see any sort of massive correction in the residential real estate, especially for anything under 300K, in my opinion.
I agree. And one of the things that people have a tendency to forget is that it's a large country, really. Like there is so many different markets within the country. So you can't like have a general rules for everywhere. I see, for example, that in the Midwest, it kind of slowed down this last few months. Here in South Florida, it's crazy. It's as hot as it's ever been. People are still buying. Price keep increasing. I've been trying to buy a house for my primary residence for a few months. It's insane. I'm getting like houses are getting sold way over retail. People are bidding each other. Like it's insane. So, there's several markets, and it's not like a one shoe fit all, in the US.
I agree. But overall, I would say, we're in a great place, and I think, real estate's going to continue to appreciate, over the foreseeable future.
For sure. So, I know that you have like different, program going on because you found a way to go past this major pain point that we all had at some point in the industry, which is breaking from being a solopreneur doing 3 to 5 deals a month to building a sustainable business where you can at some point, like you right now living in Mexico and kind of like stepped out of your business and working on the business and not in the business. You kind of like figure out this blueprint. And so now I know that you're actually coaching other people in the space to do the same thing, to grow their business in a sustainable way. You have different coaching program. Can we touch base a little bit on that? Can you explain, what are the different offers that you have?
Yeah. Our main flagship is our 7-figure cartel. We've created dozens and dozens of millionaires. So we've had, I think 200 people that have come through the program. All of them have been seeing amazing results. We've made, like I said, you check out the testimonials online, but we've had guys coming in that were, doing a couple of deals a month, now running multi 7-figure organizations. So, the way that we do it is we jump on Zoom just like this, where I'm literally pouring into you every single week, myself, Brandon, and then everything that I know is put into self-study video material. It's basically like getting your PhD in wholesaling. So we lay it out to the point that like you can't fuck this up. Like if you go through the program and do what we tell you to do, the chances of you being successful are through the roof, better than any other wholesaling program out there, in my opinion. Results speak for themselves. And then we have a lot of people that have come through the program and now they're, multimillionaires. They're running these huge operations, but they're stuck at this kind of, seven figures. They're looking to, what do I do now? Like, I've got a great operation, but I'm about to pay the IRS a huge check. I don't know where to put my money. I'm looking for, ways to continue to grow my wholesale business, but add in other streams of revenue and mitigate my tax liability and just be around high level people. So we created the 8-figure cartel, which is that next step. Once you've scaled your company at 20, 30, how do you step into the owner's box, be able to retire like I have? I've been, away from my business for years now, and, be able to invest in other assets that are safe, give you a great return, and keep you from paying the IRS as much money as possible. So we do that, and that's more of an experiential thing where we still jump on Zoom. We still keep it structured, but we also have fun. I'll bring people down here to Cancun. We'll have fun in Cancun together. We'll bring people, we'll come, we have a time in Austin where you get to come hang out at my office. We spend time at my office. And then, I'll even come out to either your office and spend time with you and your team, or we just go out and we'll pick a place in the Caribbean or, South Florida, somewhere that looks good, and do another. So we get three times throughout the year where we spend face-to-face time together. So that one's really fun too. That's only for high level, people that are already doing 7 figures. Our 7-figure cartel is only for if you're actively in the business. You've got to be, at least doing deals, and have some experience in wholesaling. But if you've got no experience, you're looking to just get your first deal, make your first 6 figures. The fastest way to do it is go into 6-figure cartel. So that's designed, get you to that 6 figures, like immediately, as fast as humanly possible, so you can get into 7 and then eventually into 8. So.
Okay. So just to recap a little bit of everything, you have the 6-figure cartel that is, for someone that might be still in their W-2 job. They heard about wholesaling, but they don't know how to get started. So you basically lay the basics to get their first deal under contract. Then you have the guy that is kind of stuck at this selling that we all experience at 3 to 5 deals. This guy, you're going to take him, show your entire blueprint on operation, marketing, sales, how to structure everything to bring them to 7-figure. And then you have the 8-figure cartel. This one is more not really into the business, but more about wealth creation, wealth preservation, and is more like a high level mastermind.
Correct. Yep. So those are the 3 stages. And, it's been fun to watch people go through, the evolution of it. And we've had people go all the way through the cycle, which is, really rewarding for me. That's one of my favorite things to do now, is spend time with other entrepreneurs and help them, shorten their learning curve, get through the challenges of entrepreneurship way faster than I did. I'm a firm believer in just, plugging in with the right people, and that shortcuts everything.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I had this feedback from a few people that told me that making money and building business is fun, but once you reach a certain level, like once you make over 500K a year net, there's really like nothing you can do in life. Like you can live anywhere you want. You can have a nice life. So anything that goes over that, really, there's a fulfillment in helping others, providing value, seeing someone going from 3 deals a month to 10 deals a month. So there is like a fulfillment that comes through that. That is something really truly special. So that's something that I can definitely appreciate. And I've seen that at my level, with like the podcast and some live Zoom call that we do and this kind of thing. Helping others is very, very fulfilling. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. So I imagine that at a high level with guys going from, 7 to 8 figure, it might be even more fulfilling.
Oh, it's really cool. It's really cool. But I'm a huge believer in that. If you ever get into a rut, here's a life hack. If you ever get into a rut, you're feeling down and out, fastest way to get out of it is help somebody. Like selflessly go, help volunteer at an animal shelter, go do some volunteer work at your church. Just being in that mindset has got me out of a lot of ruts. So giving back and helping people you'll get more real fulfillment out of that than you will literally anything else. Buying a Lamborghini, flying on a private jet, blowing money at, wherever. You're going to get much more satisfaction from helping others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to link in the information below all the information about your mentorship program and all of that. If people want to reach out to you directly, where can we find you?
Instagram is probably the best spot. Just Nick Perry, REI is my Instagram. So my first and last name and then REI, like real estate investment. So Nick Perry, REI, I'm on there. Reach out to me and let me know how I can help.
All right. Sounds good. Well, man, thank you so much for being here today. We went a little bit over 1 hour. I feel like we could have those conversations forever. So next time we'll do another an episode 2, maybe in Mexico. But thank you so much for being here today. Is there any last parting words that you want to leave to the audience?
Last parting words are, you've got to be able to see past when things get hard. You got to know that you're only 1% make it in this game. So you better be the 1%. No matter what challenges come up, there's always somebody that's gone through it before. Like especially in wholesaling, reach out to somebody. Do not give up. If you're struggling in your marketing, you're struggling in your acquisitions, you're struggling in your dispositions, whatever. Our community is strong, and in wholesaling, people are so willing to share. So plug into your community, plug into mentors, plug into guys like Yoann, and whatever's on your plate, you can figure it out. So just reach out to people and stay plugged in the community, stay close to the fire, and you guys are going to be extremely successful.
Very good advice. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Thanks, man.
Hard and you aiming for the 7 figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors. All my entrepreneurs, time for you to check this. Yoann Dorat, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe. REI Tribe. Let's go.